Thank you so much for the such a nice introduction. So, a very good evening, everyone. My name is Utkarsh Mishra, and I work for Humane Society International India in the Farm Animal Protection Department. And I am the state coordinator of Uttar Pradesh, and I'm based in Lucknow. So, I would like to thank Global Forum for conducting webinar series on sustainable development goals by United Nations. And the topic is possibilities of achieving no poverty through animal welfare. So I'll be speaking about the how to eradicate poverty, which is related to most of the other indexes, whether it be zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, reduce inequalities, decent work and economic growth. The only index I feel, index number one, which is correlated with all the indexes, most of the indexes. So it is very important to understand that poverty is such a big challenge for us and in our country. And the theme of index number one is end poverty in all of its form everywhere. So without wasting any time, I will start the presentation. Before starting, I would like to recall the targets which is being set by the United Nations. By 2030, eradicate extreme poverty for all the people everywhere, currently measured as people living on less than 1.25 US dollars a day. By 2030, reduce at least by half the proportion of men, women, and children of all the ages living in poverty in all its dimensions, according to the natural definitions. By 2030, ensure that all men, women, in the particular poor and the vulnerable class have equal rights to economic resources, as well as access to basic services, ownership, and control over land and the other forms of property. And by 2030, build the resilience of the poor and those in vulnerable situations and reduce their exposure and vulnerability to climate-related extreme events and other economic, social, and environmental shocks and disasters. So when we talk about poverty in India, when we talk about poverty with the context to India, it is very important to understand that in India, 27.5% of the population is multidimensionally poor. And 1 in every 4 person in India is poor. But if we talk about this data from the global perspective, 1 person in every 10 is extremely poor. And 50%, which is half of all the people living in poverty, are under 18. So also we need to understand that education and knowledge is such an important thing for Indians as well as the other parts of the country. Sorry. Okay. So and 38.4% children under 5 years are stunted, and 35.8% children under 5 years are underweight. So malnutrition is again a very big challenge in India, and 74% people are literate. But 42 million households do not have a literate adult above the age of 25 years. So also we need to understand the quality of education is also a very big and important factor to eradicate poverty in the best of its form. We have witnessed rapid growth in countries such as China and India has lifted millions out of poverty, but progress has been uneven. And when we talk about women, women are more likely to be poor than men because they have less paid work, education, and own less property. So when I talk from the perspective of an animal welfare background, so we need to think that human welfare or social welfare is is related with the animal welfare, because most of the people who are poor or they are in extreme poverty, they are from the rural background. And it is also very important to understand that the people who are in the agriculture sector, in the whose livelihood depends on the animals. So it is important to understand that human welfare is related to the animal welfare. India is the third largest exporter of eggs, and 70% of the commercial eggs comes from the battery cages. Here I would like to show you a picture. This is a picture of a factory farm where you can see the hens are being kept in the cages. These cages are called the battery cages. And look at the condition of the factory farm. It is very dirty and it is very unhealthy. If we are talking about the poverty thing, so there is a class of people who have no opportunity of education, no opportunities of different work. They don't have much better jobs, and they have the system has been designed in such a way that they have to work in these filthy and dirty conditions. If you see a man who has if you see a man who is holding the egg tray, he doesn't even have wear the mask or gloves or a proper uniform, which should suit in the factory farm. On the other picture, if you see a man who is feeding the pigs, even he has no mask or any gloves or any kind of safety precautions. What I'm trying to say is, if we are talking about poverty, we also have to ensure that most of the disease which are spreading in our society or in our country or in our world, there is a class of people who cannot afford good health or good medication. And these are the people who are working so hard for their bread, but they cannot afford this kind of food. So moving forward, here I would like to show you a few more pictures of the factory farms. Here you can see the birds are being kept in the cages. And in India, 70% of the commercial eggs comes from the battery cages. And India is the third largest exporter of eggs. So what we have to understand is most of the people, the human resource is being working in the factory farms, in the agriculture sectors. So we have to ensure that the health of animals is also very important, as it should given the equal importance as the health of the man. Also, when we talk about the child labor or women also don't have much opportunities to work. They also go to factory farms and they collect eggs, and they used to work in the farms. And child labor is also included, because the family thinks that the child shouldn't get good kind of education, because it is a waste of time and money for them, because they are so poor that they cannot invest their time in education. And if you notice that the man, so moving forward, water crisis is one of the biggest challenge. And I'm from Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh. I have seen that people are struggling for clean water here, and there is a very big challenge of water. So here's a simple mathematics. If we produce 1 kilogram of chicken, it requires 4,325 liters of water. But on the other hand, if we produce 1 kilogram of cereal, it requires 1,644 liters of water. So, and also you can see the waste coming out, the water waste coming out from the factory farm. It will again go into the rivers and ponds, and we'll have to use purifier and ROs to drink. And on the right side, if you see an old man who's striving for the water, it is very very bad situation for people who can't even have the access of clean water. So we have to understand this. And the majority of world's poor live in the rural areas, and around 70% of them are directly dependent on the animal for their survival. And the most sad part is when their animal dies due to any disease or aging, it pushes them into a deeper poverty. Despite the fact animal health should be considered as the most important health, like the man,